Welcome back to Wood and Sticks here on the Talk North Podcast Network, recording from the Aquarius Home Services Studio. My name is Kevin Gorg, the host of the show, and we've got a great one planned for you today. Garret Raboin is the head coach of the Augustana Vikings, brand new college hockey program for the men on the Division I side. They have just completed last year their second season and had a brilliant season. 18-13-4. Had to have a really cool playoff series with Bemidji State. They went down to the wire. Some tremendous hockey. They turned a lot of heads last year in October when they went to North Dakota and beat them. They split with St. Thomas early in the season, went up against Colorado College and swept them. I mean, this is a program that's on the rise, and Garrett's done a tremendous job at Augustana. And, of course, this is a young man that was an assistant coach for 6 years at St. Cloud State and then 4 years at the University of Minnesota. So we're going to tap into not only his coaching career, but his playing career. From Detroit Lakes, was born in International Falls, played 3 years of junior hockey. He's got so many cool stories to tell. There's a wild tie-in, there always is, with his time with Brock Faber when he coached Brock at the college level. And he's got some really interesting takes on Brock and why he's been able to make that transition so damn seamless. And he's got a really great connection with Bob Motzko, who we hope to have on the show here in the next few weeks. Bob and I have texted back and forth, and he's committed to doing it. We're trying to work around his schedule. Both Bob and Garrett are going to be part of the Team USA staff for the World Juniors as they go for their three-peat and defend their gold medal. And, of course, they do it on home soil, playing in Minnesota in front of our fans, which is going to be just unbelievably cool. So a lot of great hockey talk today on the show, so why not have a little football talk? It's also right now, as we turn the calendar this week from July into August, football season is coming, and guess what? A new podcast is coming, and I'm really pumped about the opportunity that's been bestowed upon me here at Talk North. Randy Shaver, dear friend, icon in this market, someone I've looked up to for a very long time. Great football mind and great fantasy football mind. He and I are going to team up and form the Fantasy Huddle. And we start that endeavor next week. We're going to do a draft with a lot of the personalities here at Talk North, including guys like Lavelle Neal III and Mark Rosen. So we're going to do a draft next week, and then we're going to do our first show where we're going to record it midweek. It'll be available Thursday or Friday next week. And it's going to be right here in the same spot you're finding Wood and Sticks. It's called the Fantasy Huddle. I think it's going to be really, really cool. We're going to get you some insight into not only our opinions for season-long fantasy, we're going to talk daily fantasy. And now, because of all the great states around Minnesota that have legalized sports wagering, we're going to talk some prop bets, which I'm way into, and a lot of good stuff around the pigskin. So watch for the Fantasy Huddle with Randy Shaver and yours truly. And that'll be a fun show that gets cranked up next week. Here on Wood and Sticks, I mentioned Bob Motzko's on the radar. Originally this week, we were going to have our guy Mitch Helgerson from the Minnesota Wild. There was a scheduling conflict. We couldn't match days, so that got pushed back to next week, and we're going to break down Hockey Day Minnesota. We're going to take a deep dive into the Wild schedule and break that down. We'll talk a little Kirill Kaprizov and Marco Rossi with Mitch. Mitch is very plugged in on the broadcast side, but he's also very plugged in over at the offices there and sees Craig Leopold and the brass on a regular basis. He'll be a really interesting guest to have. He's a super dude and also a guy that loves college hockey, so we could talk a little of that with Mitch next week. But the college hockey and the World Juniors and St. Cloud State and Detroit Lakes and all the good stuff today is going to become, I think, one of my favorite shows of the summer. Garret Raboin next here on Wood and Sticks. Before we get to Rabs, I want to thank our sponsors. I'll start with my dear friend John Schweitz and Minnesota Masonic Charities. You know, when people think about the Freemasons, they often think about the secret handshakes and those crazy hats. And, of course, they always have those cool pancake breakfasts. But Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the U of M or the Masonic Children's Hospital. And, of course, the Masonic Home over in Bloomington. Just a few examples, folks, of the important work that Freemasons support here in Minnesota. They're part of the largest fraternal organization in the world. Masons have consistently answered that call when it comes to charitable needs. I'm so happy that Minnesota Masonic Charities and John Schweitz have chosen our podcast as a place to help spread the word. And I'm looking forward here in the coming weeks to months to continuing that great momentum. Thank you to the Minnesota Masonic Charities. You're going to find out in our conversation here shortly that Garret, the bench boss at Augustana, is way into the outdoors, so he knows all about the value of onX, maps, and fish.
Have you ever driven past a piece of land and wondered who owns that? Or maybe you need to know exactly where a property line runs. That's where onX Hunt comes in. And it's not just for hunters. There are folks using onX for their jobs every day throughout the country. From farmers and ranchers mapping out their fields, wildland firefighters navigating rough terrain, to construction workers needing to know who owns what property, this app offers something for everyone. If you need the best land ownership maps, aerial imagery, and property boundaries in your pocket, onX Hunt is the tool for the job. Try it free for 7 days. Download onX Hunt in the app or Google Play Store, or visit onxmaps.com/hunt to get started.
And one more great shout out here on the show, our good friends over at Lexus in Wayzata and Maplewood.
Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
All right, we're back on Wooden Sticks. This is a Talk North podcast production. As always, we are recording from the Aquarius Home Services studio. Happy to be joined by the bench boss of the Augustana Vikings and a part of the World Junior Team USA coaching staff. He is Garret Raboin. Garret, thanks for being on the show today. Really looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How's summer going? I know we always talk about the athletes and how there's no downtime, and I work hand in hand with the Minnesota Wild, and I know they take a little time off, but they really start to ramp it up here for you between your duties with the Division I program that is bustling at Augustana and World Juniors. I know you've got the camp going on right now. Do you get any downtime in the summer?
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I, with our 3 young kids, we're able to go. I'm from Detroit Lakes originally, so we're able to get up to the lakes area whenever we don't have any obligations. So it's been good. It's busy, but a lot of fun.
Well, my 3 kids are a lot older than yours, but the downtime for you probably isn't something you have at all if you've got the coaching duties and the father duties along with everything else that goes with it. But why do you believe the success has come so quickly at Augustana? You know, from afar, and I'm a St. Thomas guy, and I'm good friends with Rico Blasi. He was on the podcast about a month ago, and I've been real proud of the progress they've made. I've been blown away by how quickly you guys have become not just relevant, but really good at Augustana.
I think a lot of the credit is just in the plan and the group of people that brought hockey to Sioux Falls. We were able to learn from the St. Thomases and Penn States and others that had gone through something similar but a little bit different. So there was a roadmap when I came to town that allowed us to find a fast start. I had a whole year too. You got to keep in mind that my first year, while the rink was being built, was just dedicated to recruiting our first team and trying to figure out how we could build a foundation because it's just our start, but this thing will be going for a long time.
It's exciting to see Sioux Falls become a hockey hotbed, and I think people might lose track of the impact that the United States Hockey League and junior hockey in general has on maybe some non-traditional hockey spots that have become, like Sioux Falls, a place where people kind of look forward to seeing hockey. Omaha, Nebraska also comes to mind. How much of an impact has junior hockey had on that area?
Oh, it's huge. And you're right on. I mean, look at that area, Sioux City, Omaha, Sioux Falls, Lincoln, Tri-City. They're all programs who have won Clark Cups, Anderson Cups. just a great spot, and the hockey fans are just rabid. And now, several years after the Stampede got their start under Bob Motzko, ironically enough, there's 800 youth kids right now in that community, and I'm just floored with the popularity of the sport, and it continues to grow.
Well, and you know it firsthand from your 3 years playing with the Lincoln Stars. I played way back in the day in Des Moines with the Buccaneers, and I'm just floored at the level of play. The league continues to grow. It continues to get better. You know, when I played in the mid 80s to late 80s, before I played college hockey at St. Thomas, you know, the hockey was really good, but there was no guarantee if you were a go-to player on a USHL roster that you were going to get a Division I look. If you're now, Garret, a go-to player on one of those rosters, not only are you going to be a D1 player, but you're likely going to be a star player at the Division I level.
Yeah, it's what a tremendous feeder for college hockey, and you see it just continues to grow. The resources, the amenities, the things that players have at their disposal to continue to grow their game. You're right on, Gorgie, and it's again, it's something we as college coaches, no matter the program, Minnesota, St. Cloud State, wherever I've been, now at Augustana, those players that have been through the battles in the USHL, the translation rate is just it's extremely high.
Well, let's go back to when you were a little kid, because I grew up in Burnsville. Tom Osiki was our head coach, and I looked at those high school players when I was a little guy as gods, and we would go to the rink to watch those high school games. And for all of us, we just were dreaming about one day wearing the black and gold and playing for Burnsville. So as a little kid, when did you get bit by the bug? And I know you grew up in International Falls when you were little, and I got a bunch of buddies like Tony Worley that I played college hockey with from the Falls. And, you know, when I think of the Falls, I don't think you can be born there and not have a little hockey in your blood.
And that's it. And my dad, he's a Bronco, played for Pops Ross. He was with Constantine Sheehy, all those guys up there in the heyday. They just never could get past Grand Rapids to get to the state tournament. But that's where it started. And I was always drawn back to International Falls. My grandparents lived there. My parents still live there today. But when they moved to Detroit Lakes, I always spent my summers there with the fall summer hockey. Kevin Gordon was the coach. Ben Gordon now, an assistant at the University of Minnesota. And I loved it. I had so much fun. We played a little hockey, but we did a lot of fishing and enjoyed Rainy Lake and Voyageurs National Park. And that's where it really took off from there.
Yeah, and I think as your hockey career progressed, you got to play at Detroit Lakes. I mentioned the 3 years you played in Lincoln. When did the light bulb go on for you? Maybe it was younger. Maybe it was before you even got to the high school level that maybe playing Division I college hockey and maybe the dream of playing pro hockey, which you did in Europe, was a possibility. Because I never really got there. When I was in Des Moines, I certainly was looking to see where I could get to. But for you, I'm certain, being that you were more of a star player, that light bulb had to go on fairly early.
You know what? It didn't. And I reflect back on my playing career and up through Pee Wee Bantam hockey, high school. I don't know that I was ever the best player on my team. There was a lot of good athletes. Some of them chose to play other sports. But when I started to get to the national festivals through USA Hockey is when I started to see players from around our country and try to stack myself up against them and see if I was in that, you know, if I was in that conversation. And my dad, having played at Providence College, the dream was always to play college hockey. There was no dream beyond. Similar to you, probably. My dad was an assistant coach for Detroit Lakes High School. They were my heroes. That's all I wanted to do until I got to high school. And then when I got to high school, I thought it would be an absolute dream come true to play Division I college hockey. And that's where my sights were set. And beyond that, I didn't know where it would lead me, but the national festivals were where I thought I might have a chance.
Well, and your connection to Bob Motzko is obvious, and being that he was your coach with St. Cloud, I've known Bob for the better part of 20 plus years, and I don't think there's a finer human being I've come in contact with in terms of the hockey world, and just I love the man dearly. How did that connection start for you? And obviously, you ended up going to St. Cloud State, so it had to be a pretty strong connection.
Yeah, and talk about how your life changes it, and so much thanks to one person. That truly he gave me a chance to continue my career. I was a walk-on at St. Cloud State. I played 3 years of junior hockey in Lincoln, Nebraska, and not till the playoffs did St. Cloud step forward. He had just taken that job, and it was a handshake agreement back when those were a thing. He said, if you can come here and help, I'll take care of you. And that I talked to my parents, and I remember the committee and the commit to St. Cloud State, and I'd waited so long to just know where my next stop would be and if I could play the sport further. And I called him and I was begging him to commit, and he's like, well, we need to you need to talk to your parents about what the money might look like, and see if it's something you can do, because we don't have anything really scholarship wise for you. And I said, Bob, don't worry about that. I'll figure that out. And I just said, can I be committed? And he's like, well, talk to your parents first and get back to me. So, and that was the start of it. And then after that, I mean, how he's delivered, continues to give me opportunity. Incredible.
Well, and a lot of this, Garret, you also earned, because as I look at your bio for the Huskies, I remember, because back when you played at St. Cloud State, I was covering a lot more college hockey. As my tenure covering hockey in the Midwest has kind of grown, I've become way more Wild-centric here in the last 6 or 8 years. And I remember watching those WCHA games and the traditional Friday night featured matchup with in-state rivals from Minnesota. It was as good as it gets, but you ended up being a captain, an assistant captain for a year, and then the captain for the last couple of years. That isn't something that's given to a walk-on unless you earn it.
No, and we had some darn good teams, and it was probably the perfect place at the perfect time for me. It was just the way Coach Motzko and Eric Rude, Mike Gibbons, the way they saw the game, the way they handled me as a player. I felt valued. I felt free to just be myself. And when players have that, when they feel valued and appreciated and have some autonomy, it's crazy what can happen. And my game really took off. We had program's all-time leading scorer still to this day was my roommate. So many good players around me, and just great guys. Like what a ride. And Gorgie, you probably know too. Like I don't really remember any of the games, but I remember the people that were with me during that period of my life, and still my greatest friends. What an experience.
What I remember is this, and there's a couple things from that time in my life. And I started really doing the hockey thing in 2006. This would be my 20th year covering the Wild. But I remember we used to go on the road for our shows when we did college hockey, because back then it was a Friday, Saturday series. We did this is way before the Big Ten, obviously. We did all the Gopher games. So we're up at St. Cloud, and Doug Woog and I are broadcasting in our pregame show from the Dog Pound. And you've got these drunk college kids, and it's awesome, right? Like the band's playing, these drunk college kids are like hanging over Doug Woog and I. The atmosphere is electric because the Gophers are in town. If you were a hockey fan anywhere near the Granite City, that was absolutely the place you had to be. And that's what made that conference and all those rivalries so damn special.
Yeah, and I know exactly. I can see it in my head. When Wooger was, and I'm glad you brought up his name. What a man, and what a hockey person in the state of Minnesota. Just a true legend. But when he was in the Dog Pound, and it was hilarious, and you could see how much fun. But I think it might have been a Halloween game where the kids were lined up to get in, and but that's what it's all about. I mean, the energy that comes with those games, and for the athletes to experience something like that, you'll never forget it.
Well, and I think you can look back as a player and also probably as a coach. But I remember every year in March, there were two tournaments I look forward to: the boys high school hockey tournament and the WCHA Final Five, both at the XL Energy Center, both in downtown St. Paul. And when you would gather those teams for the WCHA Final Five, it didn't even matter who was in the tournament. All the fans would show up. I vividly remember Michigan Tech's fans because they rarely made it to the final part of that tournament, but they had the black and gold, suspenders, the overalls, and they'd show up and they were running around the XL Energy Center, talking about Michigan Tech, even though their team wasn't playing and their season was over. The crowds were huge. St. Cloud was always there. Minnesota, North Dakota, Wisconsin. Like, these were weekends as a hockey fan you just looked so forward to. And I understand where college hockey has gotten, and now with new teams coming in, it's going to be great again. But for me, that WCHA Final Five tournament for conference tournaments was the best I'd ever seen.
Oh, and you nailed it. I remember we missed out on it my junior year, and we went into overtime in a deciding game 3 against Mankato my senior year. And I remember telling the guys, we're in the locker room waiting to go out for the overtime, and I said, boys, if we get it done, I'm shedding my gear. Because that's how awesome I wanted to go so badly. So we did end up scoring, and there's a grainy video of it out there, but I shed my gear. I was the only one guy did it on the whole team. But I wanted to get back to St. Paul in the worst way. And because it was big time. And it was, then you go the next week into the NCAA tournament, it's a letdown. I mean,
right.
But what an event, and we can only reflect on it now, but it was awesome.
So when you played for the Huskies, and I'm going to ask the obvious question, and then maybe you can enlighten me with a couple others that maybe are off my radar. I imagine, and I've had this conversation with Ryan Carter, who played at Mankato with the Mavericks, and when Minnesota would come to town, he said that was the big brother that you had to beat, that you needed to beat, that you hated, that you looked forward to playing every single year. So was it that same way at St. Cloud when the Gophers came to town, and who else would light that fire for you guys when they came into the Herb Brooks Center?
No, obviously Minnesota and Coach Motzko's tie, just the way it started. The 8-7 game. I remember I was on a cooling down on a bike in Lincoln and watching that game on TV, and just I couldn't take my eyes off it, and that really established a rivalry that followed. And true, you got to think there was great players certainly at St. Cloud State, and it was already a rivalry. But to be a part of it, to play in Mariucci, to see those guys in the Final Five, the crowds that had, I mean, the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center when we played the University of Minnesota was absolutely juiced. There was, I mean, it was bursting at the seams. But same thing, North Dakota, big time rivalry, huge games. And there was a little bit of a shift, obviously, on the coaching side when we became a part of the NCHC. There was some new rivalries that formed, but Minnesota, North Dakota, as a player, were always those ones you marked on the calendar and really look forward to.
Well, ironically, now that you're at Augustana, you probably circle those games when you get the chance to play St. Cloud State. I know you're going to open up with the Huskies this year with the Vikings. What is it like to face your alma mater as the head coach at Augustana?
There's so many good memories. You know what? So we played them last year, and we traveled back to the Herb, and the hockey almost becomes secondary. Certainly, you're with your guys, and you're all into your group. That's just how competitors are in team sports. But I really enjoyed. You see so many good people that were a part of your journey as a player, and just the community as an athlete when I was at St. Cloud. It just extends beyond the rink, and there's so many people I consider family that are still there. They come say hi, and whether they're administrators or just fans, I like that. I really enjoyed going back, and Brett Larson's done a tremendous job, and now I look forward from the competitive side. Those games make our group so much better, and our guys really look forward to playing.
Yeah, it's big time hockey. I looked at your schedule. You're going to open up with the Huskies, as I mentioned. You're going to go up and play the Bulldogs at UMD. You're going to play the Arizona State, the Sun Devils, another young program that's already become a power in college hockey. So you're not dodging anybody early. You mentioned your dad and his background. Is that where the coaching bug started with you? And then at what point, when you were maybe playing at St. Cloud, did you think about, if the pro career is over and that dream dies at some point, that you wanted to be on the coaching side of things in hockey?
I think it was never anything I ever thought would happen. I was happy to get my degree from St. Cloud State as a special education teacher. I wanted to work, in that field, probably in the area of transition. And I was happy with that. I wanted to coach high school hockey and help out, get back to the game to some extent. I wanted my summers off so I could hunt and fish and be on the lake. But as life happens, I came back from Europe. My wife was pregnant with our first child, our son Louis, and Coach Motzko had reached out and just said, like, hey, do you want to explore coaching? And at that time, there was no, the indication that it might be at St. Cloud State. I interviewed with the Sioux Falls Stampede. There was a team called Russell Stovers in Kansas City. I interviewed there. I failed to get either job. So I was content with going back to Norway at the time. And then late in the summer, Coach Motzko mentioned that there might be a job opening. And I went through the whole interview process with familiar faces. It was easy. Again, I had zero coaching experience. But I had experience at St. Cloud State, and I knew the staff. I knew everyone around the program really well. So, and I had nothing to lose. And oddly enough, Coach Motzko brought me on board. I kind of rode. I wouldn't even say shotgun. I was in the back seat while Motzko drove, and Mike Gibbons was in the passenger seat. And I learned from those guys. I had it's really rare nowadays, but I just sat back and learned everything. I was coaching players I had played with. How weird is that? And the first season we went to the Frozen Four, we had a Hobie Baker winner, and I didn't recruit a player on that team. That was all those guys. And I remember thinking after year one, like, wow, this is coaching? Like, so that was a start. And it's quickly, I've been in this sport as a coach for 14 years.
It's funny, you have that laugh. I can just see the smile on your face as I smile with you because, I coached boys high school hockey for 5, and then I was the St. Thomas women's college coach for a decade. And as a player, I look back, and I'm a lot older than you, but I can't remember a lot of the games and the different plays, but I remember the bus rides and the pasta feeds and all that good stuff. And then I look back at my coaching time and 15 years, a decade at St. Thomas, and some of my most favorite times were either in the coach's room before practice, kind of yik-yakking with the assistant coaches, getting ready for the day, and then obviously the dinners or the drinks after the game or after the series at the end of the weekend when you kind of look back and you're thinking about your team, but you're telling stories, you're having a good time. I don't remember a lot of the games. I can't remember a lot of the games, but I remember the good times. And when you're an assistant coach with the guys that you just mentioned, who I know both very well, you're going to have a great time no matter what.
And that's exactly it. It's weird. You're almost like, and this, like, you grow up your whole life and you're part of a team, and you think you go to become a coach and you grow up and you start to have all the answers. You don't. When you become a coach, that's your team, is your staff, and you share the same laughs, and you're just you're like a player, you're a kid, but you're just a little older.
And it's funny because the players all sit around, and whether we like it or not, they're ripping on the coaches or making fun of the coaches who they love and they adore and they respect. But that's what players do. And I hate to tell the players this, but when I was in that coach's room and any coach out there, they're sitting there making fun of their players, having some fun and some laughs at their expense, because you're right. That is the team that you're on. And together, you're all one. And you're all going out there to win the battles every weekend, and you all love each other. But that's what you do.
No doubt. And you sit here as a coach and you pick your guys apart and wonder how they could have done this and that, and how, and we're all a lot better in hindsight than we actually were. I understand that too.
For sure, no doubt about it. So as you look at the first 2 years, how much of an impact did that decade working as an assistant at St. Cloud and Minnesota with the Gophers, how much did that set you up for really the success you've had and also dealing with the day-to-day that I think a lot of people don't realize the stress that comes with being a head coach?
It's everything. I mean, when you arrive on campus and a new opportunity, that's all you have is your journey, the experiences. That's all you can draw from, in your circle of people. And in the hockey world, it's the people that you've coached with or alongside, but it's so many more. I mean, we're in a great league with some tremendous coaches, and to be able to go through it with guys like Rico and Tom Serratori and others, they're so willing to help and guide, and that's, as a young coach, I think you have to have it. I mean, I don't know that there's a way you can do it without it, and it's hockey though. You hear it all the time. The people are absolutely incredible and so selfless, and that's been a big part of it. You go, in my case, I can say it now, but you go through an interview process and you spend a whole year talking to the media and you share a vision and you talk about philosophy and how you're going to do it and why it's going to work. And you don't have an idea. You're just saying things. But, you get the best kids on campus who you believe in and you give them opportunity and you hope they compete and come together. And fortunately for us, we've had some tremendous kids that have helped us to start quickly, and we're hoping to build off the foundation they laid.
I want to hear about your team, and I'm going to make it easy for you. I'm going to start with the player I know the best, and Greg Redrood, his father, longtime best friend of mine from high school days at Burnsville, and I know Quinn wears number 21 for you guys. He's a 6'3" forward. He's one of those guys that I think he's a veteran player. He played junior hockey, right? He's a little older like you were when you got to St. Cloud. So how has Quinn been doing? And I know he's got a couple years left of eligibility. What's the forecast here this season?
Yeah, Quinn's he's part of a group that came and we're all essentially like the oldest player we have on our team, and the staff is under the same umbrella. We're essentially juniors together. And that's him. We've only been around. We're going into our third season, and these guys now have some experience and they know the lay of the land, and it becomes more familiar. It's not just Augustana. When we came to the University of Minnesota, it took 3-4 years to start speaking the same language and walking in step with one another, and that's where we're at Augustana, and I think the biggest thing we're looking forward to as we enter year 3 is our growth it's on the shoulders and now of some, we'll call them upperclassmen. If they can take a step, if they have those good summers that we feel like they're having, if they can carry themselves with a maturity, having been through the league a couple of times, if coach starts talking a little less and players start talking a little more, we think we can be in a good spot.
So if people are looking forward to watching you guys play this year, and I think you've turned a lot of heads, Garret, in the first 2 years, are you a team that's big and physical? Are you small and speedy? Do you win with offense? Do you win with defense? Is it a combo platter? Like, what if you were handicapping and maybe scouting your club and you were somebody else, what stands out about the Vikings?
But I think we're a fast team and we're relentless. We compete. We're a combo in terms of how we want to play. And I think our guys, and you know it too, like they're wired to compete. They're zero maintenance, and they never go away. That served us really well in our first couple of years. And, that's just our group. I mean, the guys we've recruited and as they've come together, that's their identity, is just a selfless group. We have no superstars, but it's it's a deep group in how they compete, and it's by committee, everything. And that's us, kind of some misfit toys, but we band together through it, and the staff and the players are all the same. And that's been what's so much fun. And we're not afraid of anyone. We'll play anyone, anytime, anywhere. And we're just, again, I think it's a humble group, and we got to stay that way going forward.
You're turning Augustana into a hockey school day by day, but when I used to hear the school name come up, it would always seem to come up with the football program. And so I'm curious, I know they've always had giant support on the football side. What's the support been like from the students there and the community in the first couple of years?
It's great, and it's growing. And that's one of the most fun parts about, we only have, we'll call it 2,400 students. So it's a small campus, and hockey's completely new. It is completely new. There was zero. There was no club team. There was no rank, anything. And through our first 2 seasons, to see the other sports and everyone, and that's a big part. I mean, we've drawn from that. The Coach Olszewski with the football team, incredible guy, all-time person, a big reason for their success. He coached at Mankato. He took over Augustana, and he's just, the way he does it's inspiring for me as a young coach. I want to be like him and run my program similar to him. But they support each other. Our students, our athletes support one another. In our fan base, they were curious year one. I think the venue was so impressive. They spent a lot of time looking around. Their eyes weren't drawn to the ice. So year 2 last year, they started to pay attention to the hockey a little more. We're developing a student section that has some chants and some cheers and the understanding of the game, because it's so fast. It's slowly evolving. I love to tell the story. I mean, Michigan Tech brought a busload of students from Houghton, and they wanted to do a back and forth. So they were chanting at our student section, and they wanted a little back and forth. Well, our students had no idea what was happening. They kind of just tipped their hat to Tech. And I remember after the weekend, they're, holy smokes, those kids from Tech, man, they're really fun to be around there. That was a heck of an environment because of those Tech. And I said to the media, I said, we took it to them on the ice, but my God, our student section, they took the L tonight because you got to fire back. And that's what they're learning, and it's fun to watch it come to life.
So let's take a broad brush look at college hockey, because I don't envy the position you guys are in. It's a challenging position right now. It's a new world in college hockey. I had this conversation with Rico a month ago. I'll start here with the transfer portal. And I know a lot of these things, as the game evolves, as college sports evolve, are necessary evils. My idea is with the transfer portal is I think we're making it a little too frequent with how often kids are jumping ship. And if they could modify it to where they could maybe move one time unless their coach leaves, then I think it might be a little easier. But as you navigate these changing times, Garret, what are your thoughts on the transfer portal?
It's certainly an interesting time. You're right there. The transfer portal was incredibly important as we got our start. We had north of 15 players that helped come to campus and get us off and running. So it was great in that sense as a upstart program. But as you grow, and as the GM of our team and recruiting, and I'm a believer through my experience. I like freshmen that then graduate, then come back to an alumni golf tournament, and walk forever as a part of your program. That is what I hope for our guys. I think you'll always have to supplement and use the portal to your advantage when needed. But I don't want it to be a big part of our program. I think there is it's an option, but my message to our guys too, and we're completely transparent, is there's going to be hard conversations and adversities, and but through those adversities, it's such a great opportunity for growth. You're going to get so much better, but you got to stick with it. I don't love that the portal's there as an option for when things get hard. You make the decision to take the path of least resistance. That I'm not about it for that reason. But again, I do think for each individual program, it can help supplement to some extent.
Well, really well stated too, in the fact that, as your program grows, you're going to have plenty of guys that come in, commit as a freshman, play their entire career there, and have that alumni feeling and those connections. But on the flip side, and you stated this, I looked at what St. Thomas has been able to cultivate, what you're cultivating right now, Arizona State to a degree. You can't have an upstart program and expect to be competitive day one unless you have some of that influence where you've got seasoned college players that come in. So I think especially with programs like St. Thomas and Augustana, it's played a vital role, and it's been a very positive thing. I think long term, if there's some modifications, I think it might be good, not just for the college coaches and the programs, but for the kids too, because I think if you give that option where they can move 3 or 4 different times, I'm not certain it's great for the kids.
Yes. And two, when we started our program, that the fifth year, the COVID year, still existed. So our year one team, you go back like Vachon, Arnaud Vachon was our captain. He couldn't play another year at Colgate, so he came to Augustana. He was a captain at Colgate. They made a national tournament, and he possessed so many things in terms of how you operate and how you live as a student athlete that we knew he was going to provide tremendous value. And he did. He delivered at an incredibly high level. And then just great people. Shea Donovan, probably the only player I've recruited out of a cubicle. He was going to go into the business world. I said, hey, come with us. Help us. He unbelievable guy. And those are some of the personalities that we had to help us get our start. That we thankfully there was that fifth year in the transfer portal, because was so grateful for they did coach such a favor in helping us start our program in a big part of our journey, and there's still threads that we're carrying with us from them to this day.
And the second thing I want to ask you about that's new and different, and we're all still getting used to it, is the NIL. And I think a lot of this is great for kids. I look at football and the money that generates. I totally understand it. Recently in hockey, some of the big news that was out there was a player by the name of Gavin McKenna, reportedly $700,000 around there to go play at Penn State. How long he'll play for the Nittany Lions remains to be seen. It might be a year or two at the most. But I look at Big Ten programs, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rabs, but do they not have more money to work with at a place like Penn State than you would at a St. Thomas or an Augustana?
Yeah, you would think. I mean, they're the facilities, different things like that. But I go to player experience, and I think at Augustana we can deliver an incredible student athlete experience. I think when you look at the player and the development, that's why you're in college. Incredible student experience, best years of your life. And you want to develop and move forward to chase your dream of playing in the National Hockey League. And what do you have at your disposal? I think we can deliver on that front at a really high level, and that's going to offset. Not too long ago, you're recruiting Brock Faber and Matthew Nyes for free. Oh. And to see how those guys banded together and they just played for each other in a university and stayed the extra year with the NIL and all these things. My fear is that it could change your room. It could change your culture. And in our program, I think Sioux Falls is it's a booming community. Are we going to have the opportunity to pony up and offer some of those things? Yes, certainly. But as a coach, the challenge is if you enter that world, how does it change change your room. And two, I'm a believer in the walk-ons. I'm a believer in guys earning scholarship as they're on campus. Some of my favorite stories in coaching are guys that took a chance. They had John Lazat came to St. Cloud State. All he needed was an opportunity. Played a game for the Minnesota Wild. Those are incredible stories. Those are guys with their competitive fire and how grateful they are for simply just an opportunity. It's amazing how they can impact your locker room and your team. I look back at my own career. I mean, paying your own way to go to, I would have paid, put a price. I would have paid anything to have one more year.
Right.
Heck,
You miss
I
it.
never thought of getting paid would never cross my mind.
Right. It is. It's a little bit of a different world. I'm so glad you brought up Brock Faber's name. And, you had a chance for a couple of years to see him wearing the maroon and gold. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been watching college and pro hockey and that transition. And it's not an easy transition. It just isn't. I have yet to see a player like Brock Faber make it look that seamless. Did you know? I mean, I know it's probably a lot different now. Your lens is different because we've seen the product play and become a star at the NHL level. But when he was playing for you guys at the U, and you had 2 years with him, did you know?
I knew from day one.
Come on.
It's Brock, and you don't even need to go on the ice with him. And I tell a story. We were in the bubble in Notre Dame, and Brock went awkwardly into the boards, and I think it was a collarbone, and he was questionable. So we go into the next game, big game. We're trying to win the Big Ten championship, and we're all kind of wondering, are we going to have Brock? Are we not going to have Brock? And everyone, we have meal and everyone's taking a nap, and my phone rings, and it was Faber. And I go, oh God, here he's going to tell me he can't
Here we go.
play. He calls, he goes, Rab, he goes, I'll play, but I'm going to need 20 tonight. I go, what? He goes, I'll play, but you better play me a regular shift. I want to get 20 minutes tonight. And I said, all right, Brock, we'll see you on the rink. And but that's just him. He's such a competitor. There's no way he wasn't going to play.
Right.
And he's just such a competitor, and he's such a team guy. And it's how he carries himself and approaches everything. And there's no moment too big. He just doesn't have that. He's not wired like that. And such an unbelievable guy.
Yeah, they don't come any better. Honest to God, I've been around a lot of pro hockey players, and he's one of the few guys that you get to know him and you get to figure out what makes him tick. And watching him make that transition, and a lot of kids when they come out of college and they play their first couple games in the league, they're wide-eyed, they're scared to death, they're trying not to make a mistake. That wasn't Brock Faber. Brock Faber stepped out there, and I think the Wild coaching staff at that time was led by Dean Evason and Garret, and I think their plan was to get him a couple of games at the end of the regular season, so the next year when he got to camp, he wasn't going to be in awe of the experience. And he played so damn well in those couple of games that it forced their hand, and they completely flipped the script and had to play him in the playoffs. And by the way, he was probably one of their best defensemen in that series, playing in his fourth or fifth game in the league. And from there, it's just gone on. He's become a star player. But what you're saying resonates with me because I've seen that same thing play out on the biggest stages at the NHL level.
No, and that's you're right. He's the best part about Brock for me was just to see how he interacted with his teammates and how he elevated a group and the words he used to band everyone together, and how how he was on a rocket ship to the National Hockey League, but when we had him, all he wanted to do was bring a championship to the University of Minnesota. All he wanted to do was to realize great moments with his teammates. He was all in, and for a guy of his caliber to have that commitment and just live in the moment really speaks to him as an individual.
I want to get to the hat trick hot seat. 3 quick questions to get to know Garret Raboin a little bit better. But before we do the hot seat, I just got to ask you one time, since you're going to be on the staff, how cool is it going to be to see Minnesota, both in St. Paul and over in Minneapolis, support and fall in love with the World Junior Tournament? You know firsthand how special this tournament is.
It's going to be awesome, and it's the state of hockey. To bring this tournament to the state of hockey in St. Paul, in Mariucci Arena, I think it's tomorrow's stars, and they're playing, in big moments. It's such a great tournament, and they're still raw. The kids, there's youthful moments throughout the tournament. The emotion, all of it representing their country. It's such an awesome tournament, and we know the fans around the state of Minnesota are going to show up for it, and the energy is just going to be off the charts. And you can already, we're playing games in July over at Ritter Arena right now, and there's fans showing up. It just gets you fired up for late December, early January.
It's going to be spectacular. I think Minnesota's going to crush it. Can't wait to see it play out. So the hot seat's simple. 3 quick questions. We get to know you a little bit at the end of the show. I'm going to date myself here, Garret, a little bit. When I was a teenager, it was Slapshot, it was Caddyshack, it was Fletch, way before your time. So take me back to the late 90s, early 2000s, a much younger version of Garret. Give me a couple movies that you were and your buddies were obsessed with.
Miracle, that big one. We came up. Mighty Ducks is my childhood. 1, 2, 3, all of them. And then we go back to some of the old ones. Slapshot, timeless.
It is.
And as we grew older, that was one of our favorites.
And it's funny, if you're a hockey player that rode a bus at any point in your time, and most of us at some point will, especially if you play in the juniors or college at some level, the same movies get passed on from generation to generation. You mentioned Mighty Ducks, Miracle, Mystery Alaska. Slapshot to me is the one that covers every generation. Our parents were watching it, yet now we're, and kids these days are in love with it. And that tells you just how good that movie is. All right, this one I'm really excited for. I ask it to every one of my guests. I want to know your first concert. I want to know the venue and who you went to go see for that first concert.
It was a schmoz of performers.
Okay.
I'm from Detroit Lake, so that's WeFest.
Oh, of course.
And that's, you're looking at probably Toby Keith, Kid Rock, Brooks and Dunn, all of those over three days in August.
What a great call. Toby Keith, God rest his soul, was also a horse owner. And in my summertime, I work out at Canterbury Park, and I do all the interviews out there and all the TV stuff. And he had a horse that shipped in and won one of our stakes races. So I got to interview Toby Keith. What a super guy. And I had no idea what a big dude he was. Like I'm not very tall. I'm 5'9", but he looked like he was like a foot taller than me. Could not have been a nicer guy, but every one of his songs is a banger. So if they're at WeFest, it had to be really, really good. All right, so now we're going to get into the outdoors, because I am real proud of being an avid indoorsman. I just did a show last week on the podcast focusing on the outdoors, and I referenced my dear friend Greg Redrood, who is a very avid outdoorsman. So I want to know your favorite spot. It can be to hunt, to fish, when you get away. And you mentioned the kids and the coaching and the stress and all. When you want to go somewhere and just get away, Garret, whether it's hunting or fishing, where's your spot?
If I'm on the water, I love Rainy Lake and Lake of the Woods, Northwest Angle. Great spot up there. Walleye, muskie. I have a deer stand in Sioux Falls through the fall. I enjoy sitting up there. I can see I-29 from my deer stand. And it's a peaceful getaway. And I'm not a great bow hunter, but I certainly enjoy trying.
Awesome stuff. Really, throughout this conversation, it was really, I found it fascinating to kind of get to know the backstory. I watched you play, and I've watched your program develop now, and I've seen you on the benches at St. Cloud in Minnesota as an assistant coach, but to go behind the curtain, so to speak, and to to get to the nuts and bolts of it. You were so open about things and honest and upfront. It was super fun. I really appreciate you taking the time. Good luck with Augustana this season, and also with the red, white, and blue. We'll be cheering hard for Team USA to get that three-peat.
I'll see you at the rink, Gorgie. Thanks for having me.
Boy, Rabs. That awesome conversation here, of course, from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We're back to put a bow on wooden sticks here next. Well, that was a lot of fun. As expected, these Division I college hockey coaches, if they're going to be able to attract players to come play for them and be able to recruit at a high level, which Garret clearly can do, they've got to have quite the personality, quite the backstory. And I would say we got to learn all about that today. Super engaging, down-to-earth dude. I had a chance to watch him play. He was a hell of a hockey player when he played for the Huskies and for Bob Motzko. And then I've watched his coaching career blossom. And I mentioned the time as an assistant coach at both Minnesota and St. Cloud. And he's certainly earned a ton of respect. And he's turned a bunch of heads with the success that Augustana has already had. And they are a program to watch. And Sioux Falls is a cool spot. I used to go down there on a regular basis to cover some college basketball. Back in the day, Fox Sports North, who I've worked for almost 20 years, and I know we're FanDuel Sports Network now. We've changed names a couple of times, but there was a basketball tournament we covered at the Stanford Center down there in Sioux Falls. So I would go down there at least once a year and cover that, stay overnight down there, and really cool part of the Midwest, super easy drive from the Twin Cities. So if you're a college hockey fan, check Augustana out. They've got a really good club. They play a great schedule. And I think, you go to Sioux Falls, you're going to find a pretty great atmosphere, a pretty neat brand new building. And as Garret mentioned today on the show, a team that's going to be competitive and bust their butts against just about everybody. And they showed last year just how good they could be. When they went to North Dakota last year early in the season, I think everybody was like, what's going on here? And they validated that by ending the season with an 18-13-4 record. And they are a team to watch this year for certain. I want to wish my dear friend Quinn Redrood, number 21 on said Viking squad, the best of luck. And thank you again to Garret for taking the time as he is preparing for both that season at Augustana and the World Junior Tournament. He'll be a part of Bob Motzko's coaching staff as they look to three-peat. So a lot of great stuff coming up. Don't forget about the Fantasy Huddle with Randy Shaver and myself. I'll be tweeting about that at Gorgomatic21 for the latest information on that. We'll have our first show out next week. We've got our in-studio Talk North draft. I'm super pumped about that. Will Anderson, who is going to be our intern extraordinaire, played his high school football for Maple Grove and the Crimson. He's a Golden Gopher right now, and he's looking forward to being a fixture not only in the draft next week, but throughout all the shows with Randy and myself. So football season's upon us. Hockey season's right around the corner. A lot of reasons for you every week when you're out on the road, or if you're cutting the lawn, or if you're sitting by the pool, to find your favorite Talk North podcast and dive in once in a while to me here, Kevin Gord, on Wooden Sticks. Thanks a lot for being here today, folks.